G'day, I'm Jackson from the Melbourne L-Gauge Train Club here in Melbourne. And so this is our model of Castlemain. So these buildings that we've got here are just some local flavours, a couple of things that we've got from the main street and from the surrounds of Castlemain. So we've got the one that the camera's on at the moment is the Midland Hotel. And this one is outside the Castlemain railway station when you cross the road. So a lot of people in Castlemain, if they haven't driven through and have gone by train, they know the Midland Hotel because that's the one that you see, you come right out.
Sort of one of the iconic buildings in the town.
Yeah. And, it's also the iconic Gold Rush style, the Victorian. We got the lacing in there with the skeleton's legs. And of course the mermaid there that my sisters decided to put down. But yeah, so this lacing is kind of that very Victorian style that it seems like, I don't know, it felt for me a few years ago, everyone was in a rush, to figure out how to do the lacing, and there's different ways people do it. And so my brother figured this out with the skeleton pieces. So yeah, it's on a couple of our townhouses there as well that you can see. Now they're not specific buildings, but they're modelled off kind of a very traditional Victorian 1850s style.
The general aesthetic of the appearance of the outside of the building.
Yes, the aesthetic. The aesthetic? Is that really? No, because I study accents as well, so it's good. It's interesting to learn.
There you
go. So that's a very Victorian aesthetic. You see the workers' houses that were made 150 years ago, and they designed them to save space and save money for the miners, and they were so cheap to make now. And now buildings like that you see in Carlton and Lygon Street's got some new ones just out there.
Just not far from where the convention is here.
Oh, exactly. And that's the thing. That's such a Melbourne thing that is why we do it at these conventions and why we move away from the modulars, which are very European, to try and give it more of that Australian flavour. Because those buildings now, $2 million you pay for a house like that, because all the areas that were the cheap areas before where the miners and the workers were, now they're really trendy. Because, like the Greeks and Italians that moved to Carlton and Lygon Street, well, now they bloody, before they were the peasants and the immigrants that no one really, no one liked them because Australia and our white Australia policy and whatever. But now it's where all the culture is. So that's a very Victorian kind of look.
It kind of captures through the building some of the cultural changes within Australia as well, when you see the way that the property changes and everything.
Yeah, look, you could go so far. You could. It's one of those, it's just one of those things that happen from here, and I mean, it's because so many cultures came into Australia at the same time. It's not English, it's not American. I mean, you've got Irish that came in for the gold rush. So, and then you've got like on the Imperial Hotel there, which is another Castlemain one. The roof is like kind of European, but then, the wrought iron, the wrought iron features on it is, Victorian period, which was happening in England as well. But with the space constraints and because of the high temperatures is actually why the corrugated iron, the tin roofs, helps to get the sun. When the sun hits, it actually deflects most of it.
Okay.
And it's good for weather, it's durable, it's easy to make. So the theatre, again, is a different period. That's Art Deco, 40s, 50s. And this is, another big site in Castlemain. It's on the main street. And it's been going for like bloody 100. No, not 100. It couldn't be 100. 50 or 60 years.
A long time.
A very long time. And it's still original. And it's one of the last cinemas in Victoria and in Australia that still only runs film reels.
Huh.
So they have to order in film reel copies of movies. So like I went there when I was a kid and I watched, like Bolt and Pixar films and all of that stuff, and it was all on film reel, and the guy sits there sweating in this shop making it, and they've got all the old leather seats out the front of that beautiful building. Yeah, amazing, and very, very happy with that. Dad did a very good job with that one. So yeah.
So you guys kind of build as a family. Then you mentioned some of your other siblings and stuff. Do you got to collectively build as a family and figure stuff out?
Yeah. It's just like, more heads for one problem, and we specialize in different things. Because I don't live in Melbourne, I don't get a lot of time to, build things, and you come back and you really want to do something. But I do little details. So I made like the Anzac Cannon, which is another Castlemain thing. We had a Melbourne police officer before, and he had like they've got like the baseball cap, like the dark blue baseball caps and their vest, and so I made one. I think someone nicked it at one of our last shows.
Oh, no.
Which is a shame because he had some custom pieces on him that were worth quite a bit. But yeah, so we all do a bit. My dad and my brother do the buildings, and I do the little things, and my sister's getting into it. She's getting older. So it is. Castlemain is our collaboration. It's just another great building that's in Castlemain, and it just looks so good.
Then you've got the Fire Brigade building as well?
Yes, the Fire Brigade building. So my dad did the Brigade building, and I did the depot because he couldn't figure out how to do the roof. And it's not quite perfect because it's meant to be a rounded arch on the top, but it was closest I could figure out. And the front of it, I've used snot techniques to get the windows and the door. So figuring out, like how many studs is how many plates high, when you turn it onto the side. So it was a lot of fun to do. Just I think when it's like, well, I paint a bit, and it's like in painting, if you paint off an idea in your head, you almost don't have anything to gauge it off, I think. And so, it's an art, it's a sculpture medium. So when you sculpture a building off something that's really exists, it's good, and it's really great because a lot of people know Castlemain. Highly recommend going there.
This is like brought to you by the tourism of Castlemain.
Yeah. It is. I actually, as well, I sold Bunnings to a guy before who works at Bunnings because I told him about how we pack it all up in our boxes, and I was like, oh, you should get your plyboard like we get from Bunnings. And he was like, oh, well, that's great. I work at Bunnings, so I appreciate the free advertisement. So yeah.
And then you've got the trains here as well, so talk about that kind of portion of it in addition to the city.
Yeah. So our club, we do a lot of the Victorian Rails that you'll see on the other side. And they fit in with the layout. So this one here, the motors are a bit old because this is a very old model. It's about 9 years old. And you can kind of tell because of the types of bricks that are in there. I mean, so many bricks that are being brought out. You can do so many new styles and techniques with your snot and just with your decoration. And so this train belongs to a guy who owns a Bricklink store and a Lego shop in Melbourne. And he didn't get a chance to come here this year because his store is just up and running in Bayswater. So he doesn't have time to come to the shows and everything. But we're good mates with him, so we asked him if we could bring his train because it goes along so well. So this is, it's one of the old Melbourne commuters. So stock standard, someone will be able to tell you what exactly type of train it is. But you see it's got the Flinders Street thing on the front. And it looks so bloody good. And the guy prints his own bricks. He's one of the people in Australia because you have to get special permit from Lego to modify their bricks and sell them under the name. But the good thing is that he gets to print them all himself. So he adds that detail into his trains, and people see it and you recognize it, because these carriages, some of them still sit in the train yards. Like, you go through Flinders Street and they've got the old train yards and they're just sitting there, just like rotting away. And in Castlemain as well, they've got the train that goes Castlemain to Malden through Muckleford, which is down there. And it's not geographically correct, but it's these carriages. This is a type of train that you go on. And the FMG here is just, it's a big Australian mining corporation. So they're in Port Hamersley, which is, so actually, well, there you go. That's Perth. You see that little hook on the tip? Mm-hmm. So it's in that bit there. So that's where I live. But yeah, it's all Australian flavour, and shout out to that truck built by a guy in our club, Mark. He's a big truck guy, and he said, well, this truck's from Castlemain, so you can put that in there as well.
There you go, works well. So anyone coming to Australia, check out Castlemain and you'll see all of these buildings on display and get a look at some of the different styles of architecture that you can find in Australia here. So I appreciate you taking us through the layout. Thank you.
Yeah, check out the station as well, because this is how you got to get to Castlemain unless you want to drive a fair way.